On the slopes of Senlac Hill, north of Hastings, on October 14, 1066, England's destiny was sealed in blood. King Harold Godwinson, a tired man after days of walking and fighting in the north, faced Duke William of Normandy, a man who claimed the English throne by right of promise and papal authority. Two worlds clashed for 12 hours, from dawn until evening. Norman cavalry drill against the unyielding Saxon shield wall. By nightfall, the fate of a kingdom was decided. It is the story of the Battle of Hastings, the day that England's history was forever altered. In January 1066, England was shaken by the death of King Edward the Confessor without issue. The Witenagemot, the Council of Nobles in England, appointed Harold Godwinson king and crowned him at Westminster Abbey. But in France, Duke William of Normandy declared Harold to be a usurper, that Edward had sworn the throne to him. By September, Harold had already fought one desperate battle, defeating the Norwegian king Harald Hardrada at Stamford Bridge on 25th of September 1066. But while Harold's troops were recovering, William's fleet of 700 ships landed on the Sussex coast on 28th of September. Harold marched south, his tired troops trekking over 250 miles in 14 days. On the morning of the 14th of October 1066, the two forces finally clashed near Hastings, a battle that would decide the center of England. By October 14, 1066, King Harold Godwinson had gathered some 7,000 troops on Senlac Hill, Hastings, England. They were mainly infantry, housecarls, professional troops, and feared levies. Harold arrayed them in the legendary shield wall, a dense line of overlapping shields and spears along the hilltop. Duke William of Normandy, conversely, commanded some 7,000 soldiers of mixed composition, cavalry, archers, and infantry, continental war veterans. The Saxons sang and prayed throughout the night of October 13, 1066, morale high, while the Normans sharpened weapons and polished armor. At dawn, both armies were tense and still, each awaiting the other to make the first move. The calm before the storm would not last. Each man knew that by day's end, England's fate would be decided. At 8 a.m. on 14th of October 1066, the battle started. Norman archers launched volleys up the slope, arrows screaming through the cold morning air. The Saxon shield wall, tight and disciplined, absorbed volleys with minimal casualties. William next deployed infantry to advance, fighting uphill into the stubborn Saxons. Hours went by. A Norman horseman joined the battle, lances lowered and horses thundering, but the Saxons would not give in. Spearpoint encountered horse hooves, shields buckled, clouds of dust on each charge. Hour after hour, William's forces tested the shield wall, but Harold's soldiers moved not an inch. The peak was a rolling tide of shields, steel, and blood. It seemed that the Saxons might resist forever, yet William's tactical restraint would ultimately be decisive. Panic hit the Norman ranks by mid-morning. A rumor was passed around that Duke William had been slain. Panic swept among his foot soldiers and some pulled back. William, who saw the flagging morale, spurred forward, lifted his helmet high, and roared. His life remained intact. The troops recovered their nerve. He then employed sham retreats. The Normans pretended to retreat down the hill, which lured Saxon warriors from the shield wall. When the Saxons broke formation, the Normans wheeled and butchered them with cavalry charges and infantry thrusts. The once impenetrable shield wall of the Saxons began to falter. Each fallen spearman left a gap. Each Norman charge enlarged it. By mid-afternoon, the swing of battle had irrevocably turned William's way. By late afternoon, 14th October 1066, the Saxon line had been broken. King Harold Godwinson stood alone with his housecarls, fighting to rally the last few men on Senlac Hill. Then a moment indelibly marked in history. A Norman arrow struck Harold in the eye. He died, and the men in the close-packed group around him collapsed. Norman horse and infantry poured into the last Saxon lines, killing those that continued to resist. Thousands were killed that day, their bodies strewn over the hill. Harold's brothers Gurth and Leofwine perished too. As soon as the king was dead, the Saxon army broke up. By evening, William's troops occupied Senlac Hill. England's fate had been sealed in one blow. As darkness fell on October 14, 1066, William of Normandy was victorious on Senlac Hill. Thousands of soldiers from both sides lay dead. Harold's brothers and nobles were killed or gone. William advanced to London over the following weeks, encountered sporadic resistance but no mounted force. On December 25, 1066, he was crowned King of England at Westminster Abbey. Norman castles rose over the land. French law, language, and customs slowly merged with Anglo-Saxon practices. England was irrevocably altered. The Battle of Hastings was not just one battle, but the start of a new epoch, the Norman era of England. The Battle of Hastings on October 14, 1066, remade England forever. Anglo-Saxon kingship was at an end. Norman culture, language, and law were entrenched. Old English blended with Norman French and formed the groundwork for English today. Feudal castles blanketed the land, justifying Norman domination. Harold's last stand grew into legend, a tribute to valor, honor, and tragedy. The fight had taught Europe that leadership, strategy, and timing within a day could make history. Senlac Hill at Hastings now is a quiet field, but it breathes the incantation of spears, arrows, and banners of that October day. The conquest of William the Conqueror molded the England of the present, and the heritage of the 14th of October 1066 lives on in history, law, language, and culture.